Thanks for pressing play on this video. On this episode, we talk about an all-time great CFL pass rusher that has been reinstated from suspension.
The 2 and Out CFL podcast with Travis Currah and Sheldon Jones starts now.
And here we are, getting ready for week 7 of the 2025 CFL season, Sheldon. And here we are, the contest is open. On our last video on YouTube, a chance to win a pair of CFL tickets to a game of your choice, excluding the Grey Cup. There was one Grey Cup entry. I do appreciate the try. But not that much money in the 2 and Out coffers quite yet. So just a regular season or playoff, other than the Grey Cup, we want to send you to. Sheldon, it's really cool. I think there's been an entry for pretty much every stadium in the CFL. I love to see it.
Yeah, it's great seeing everyone comment and also just thank you to everyone who's saying congrats and all that stuff. I know it's small in the grand scheme of everything going on, but to us it's pretty cool. So thank you.
I'll have you know that this podcast does not take place in my mom's basement. It takes place in an office of a condo that I own, and Sheldon is in a basement of a house that he owns. So we're actually got it pretty good, Sheldon.
That's right. Home ownership is the good things that come with that, right? Yeah.
Home ownership's terrible. I don't know why I believed it was good for so long.
I know. I wish I was still in my mom's basement recording this thing.
Yeah, those were the days, man. Those were the days. So I'll see if I can get my directions right looking into the camera. So right up there's going to be a thing on YouTube that you can click. It'll take you to the right video. Just tell us which game you would like to go to if you win the draw, and we'll give you some tickets. 2 tickets, no strings attached. The draw is going to happen here after week 7, and we're likely going to record not long after the Ticats RedBlacks game on Sunday evening. So you have until then to get your entry in, and hopefully you'll win. And also, just to note, this week begins scoring for the Patreon exclusive CFL Fantasy League. I'm going to try to up my game, but whoever wins that league is going to get a CFL jersey of their choice. If you do want to sign up to be a patron, check out the show notes wherever you get the show. Find the link there and join in on the fun. There's probably some really good players in our Patreon community, and they might work us, man. They're gonna take a jersey out of our hands, I think.
Yeah, probably, but I was pretty down in my fantasy week last week, but it turned out I won. So I'll take it. And you come at me. I don't know if I'm playing this week though, but I need to, because I want that jersey. Since I'm included, I want that Kenny Lawler jersey. Let's go.
I love that. Now, the big news this week, Sheldon, or I guess some of the big news, is that Shawn Lemon has been reinstated to the Canadian Football League. Now, he turns 37 in August, but one of the best D linemen and pass rushers of this generation. He has played on several teams. I don't know. Has there been issues in the locker room? But talk about his most recent CFL team, and that's the Montreal Alouettes. He joined them in 2023 after having a 14-sack season with the Calgary Stampeders. They let him walk. Montreal picks him up. 9 sacks, 13 games. Darnell Sankey joins the team. The rest is history. Grey Cup champs later that November. Well, last year, we find out before the season that there was some bets made in 2021 before there was ever really a set-in-stone policy with the CFL. The hammer came down on him. He was suspended indefinitely. And then it was also found out that he needs to serve a 2-game suspension for banned substance. So he needs to get on with the team and then needs to serve the 2 games, and then he can get back on the field. Jason Moss, in a presser, had some really kind words to say about Shawn Lemon. Said he was amazing in the locker room. And it does seem like the Alouettes are the team that are going to bring him back. They were eager to bring him back last year. You have to think maybe by the time you hear this, he will have signed. And then this game will count as game 1 of his suspension. And then he'll be able to practice under the team's discretion and things like that and be able to get onto the field. That being said, what are your thoughts about him being reinstated? Because there's a lot of strong feelings and a lot of people that talk about CFL football. And maybe I'm a man of no integrity, but I'm okay with him being allowed back into the league. Like, apparently that's a hot take. He's probably got a year, 2 years left, unless he's going to surprise us all and sack quarterbacks and give us lemon drops for another 8 years or something. But I'm okay with him being back in the Canadian Football League.
Yeah, I have lots of thoughts. I understand all of the points. I understand people who really want to, the sanctity of the game and all of that. I understand that. If he would have been betting against his team, if he would have been betting for him to lose, I would be 100% on that, and he's done. I know a lot of people see like Pete Rose, and there was that Raptors player last year who, again, both of those times they were betting against their team, and that's basically taking the sanctity out of the game. And so I understand that. And then, like you said, this happened in 2021. There was nothing that I can find, and maybe somebody knows more and can, smarten me up in the comments here, but on May 25th, 2023, the Canadian Centre for Ethics in Sport launched a new e-learning course to educate the Canadian Football League players and personnel on the details of a new CFL match manipulation policy. So as far as I'm concerned, that's the first time in the league there was any sort of thing about gambling. And this is right around the time when, the CFL started allowing sponsorships of gambling and being on sports books. Like, sports betting in Canada, like online and stuff like that outside of casinos, was only really allowed around that time. And it took time for certain jurisdictions to actually have the sites where you're legally allowed to gamble. Now, I know Lemon bet on like some European sports book, I believe is where he did it. So again, well, I'm sure he, as a human, it's wrong to bet on the sport you're in, because there's a lot of things to be said about that. If there's no dialogue or if there's no written in stone rule that prohibits it, then, I don't think a lifetime ban is required or earned, justified, whatever you want to say. He ended up serving a 1-year suspension. And then, these 2 games for the banned substance, I think, are actually a blessing in disguise, because he can sign with a team now and he has 2 weeks to knock off the rust. And he can practice, because it's up, like you said, it's up to the team's discretion. So I think it's good that he's allowed back, because now they've defined that suspension, and hopefully, I don't know if they need to wait until the new CBA or if they can put an amendment in there or not, but they need to have in writing, if you're caught betting from this day forward, now that we have this, match manipulation policy, then you are banned for life. If that's what they want to do, cool. I have no problem with that. But it needs to be written down.
And this is a criticism of a CFL that I do accept. It does seem like a lot of times these rules are just kind of, let's figure them out as we go. They have like this policy, and then goes down, and then they're like, well, what do we do? This is what happened last week in Regina with the smoke thing.
100%.
What do we do? They're panicking. They don't know how to communicate it to people. And they just figure it out as they go. And I think that's what happened here.
Yeah.
So if it's set in stone and now you got the rule, should the rule have been there before? Yeah. But it wasn't.
Yeah. It's common sense. It should have been there. It wasn't. We've had other things happen where it just sometimes the CFL just gets in its own way when it comes to certain things like this, like you said. And I'm hoping that with a new commissioner, even though he's just a puppet of the board of directors, but or board of governors, but a new commissioner, and maybe we can start to, you know, get these things right, get these things dealt with in the off season. Like I know, when you're in the middle of the season and there's a bunch of bitching about video review, and then they decide to change the video review stuff after something happened that screwed over a team, that just, that's going to get on the sports shows and the podcasts and everything, and we're going to be talking about it and making, you know, it's just something that takes away from the greatness that is our league. So yeah, I think, there's a lot of talk. It's polarizing. It's great discussion points for these type of shows that we do, but it's over. Lemon has reinstated. I'm sure the Alouettes are signing him. Word is he left, the Alouettes training facility with a backpack and a hat today. I saw that in this CFL group chat we were added into. But who knows? It's he's one of the best characters in this league. Not only players, he's just one of the best, characters that is a marketable character. And he loves trash talking. He loves talking to people online, doesn't like when people put their name in his mouth or his name in their mouth, stuff like that. So I think it's great. I think now we know now that there's a policy in place. Hopefully nobody ever bets on a CFL game again, and we can talk about other things and more positive things.
So Arlen Bruce III, a legendary CFL receiver, almost 12,000 receiving yards in his career. Well, his kid, Arlen Bruce IV, was actually signed by Edmonton back in 2023, but his college career ended with him being suspended for betting on games that his team was in. Now, he bet the under in a game that he was in, and he scored a touchdown for the over to hit.
So he's too dumb to cheat, is what you're saying. That's just, I'm sorry, Mr. 4, but you're too dumb to cheat. But here's the thing, okay? He was trying to screw that game. He was trying to make money on himself having a performance, and so I don't think he should be allowed, to be honest.
We'll see.
It's different than Shawn Lemon. This is after 2023. I know that he wasn't a player, and I know he probably didn't have to take that course yet because he didn't make it here yet. But when you're trying to shave points or make some money on the side, and he was like, this is the NIL era. He's making money in college if he wants to and if he's good enough. So you don't need to be doing that stuff now.
So if Trey Ford bet the under on himself last week for the Elks, it all makes sense as to... Probably shouldn't have went
or
there.
Or AJ Ouellette.
Or all of my fantasy team.
Yeah. Elks herd was worse than you, I think. They had a worse score than you. I'm pretty
wow.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, like the word is that Arlen Bruce IV could be trying to apply for reinstatement following the indoor season. So we'll see what happens.
I guess I should say, I also should say he didn't do it in the CFL. He did it before. So I don't know if we should be maybe extending bans into, like, that's a different maybe situation. If I can put my foot in my mouth a little bit, I guess. But I understand more if this doesn't happen. If he's not able to, register a contract or get that changed, then I understand it because it's a different situation than Shawn Lemon.
I'm finally looking at the CFL Podcast Fantasy League results from last week. Sheldon Jones is complaining about a 108.5 score.
No, okay. What I'm complaining about is I had 106 before the last game. And I had Rankin and I had Keon Julian Grant. That's what I'm complaining about.
Yeah, you should have hoped for 130. 140.
Yeah.
Okay. So you crushed the Elks herd 53.4.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
I got crushed. Like, I got dog walked. 135.9 Trey Harness to my 62.6.
But I'm saying you beat the Elks herd, so
I did. Sorry, Scout.
But you're in last place, so there's that too.
Oh, wow. Wow. That cut deep. I don't know what's
I'm sorry,
happening.
but last year your fantasy was way better than mine, so I have to take this when I can.
That's true. I'll just say the real season starts after Labor Day. Let's see what
Well, the
happens.
real season starts this week on our Patreon league.
That's true. That's true.
Come on.
Pressure's on. A new podcast has hit YouTube. The Stiegel and Sanchez Paper Plate Show with the first guest, Luke Wilson. What a way to burst onto the scene, Sheldon. How'd you like the pod?
Hey, it worked for our views. Let's just say that. Yeah, I actually thought it was really good. I thought that I've always thought that Stiegel and Sanchez have had a really good kind of rapport and back and forth. I like when they get heated on the panel. I know that they have done this show before as well too. I hadn't watched it at all. But they had Luke Wilson on. They let him talk a lot, and he went more in depth. You know, I know he's verified on Twitter, so he doesn't really have the 140 or whatever limit that we have. So he has been pretty long-winded in his tweets on there, but I thought he did a really good job, actually. Like he kind of explained his point of view. He explained some points that might make sense when it comes to some rule changes. I think a big sticking point for him was the 1 yard off the ball. I can listen to an argument for that. I think, and Davis Sanchez had a decent idea too, where, when it comes to the ratio, you can only have one player per position count toward the ratio. So like one O-lineman, for example, one receiver. Again, that's something that I can hear some opinions on, and they talked about it. They talked about a big knock on the why there is a 1 yard line. They think they've been told previously by coaches and stuff that they think that it's because of the talent or skill level when it comes to Canadian linemen versus American defensive players, or on the flip side, it's just to increase more or to cause more offense and more scoring, which we know that. And I know the yard off the line has been there for a very long time, but every year it seems when we do have rule changes, it is kind of to skew the game a little bit more offensively. So I can understand if that's the reason, but I think he thought that would get rid of some of the quarterback sneaks and the lack of urgency when it comes to getting first downs. And I can hear that argument on there. He was actually giving some ideas instead of just some of the more divisive and polarizing takes he had on there, which I'm not saying he's intentionally being it. It's just as I said to him, when you are being divisive is when you are causing whatever audience you are to have different thoughts.
You might end up in a supercut again, so be careful.
Maybe that's fine. I thought I didn't like the B word. I didn't like saying the B word, but
this one,
I think. Yeah, I wish it was just that one. It was maybe downstairs beard, I guess.
This is a family-friendly.
We're gonna clip.
We're gonna clip it.
So anywho, but I recommend any CFL fans watch this. Go subscribe. I think it's great. Except I gotta throw a little bit of shade at Milt Stiegel because he had a couple pretty out there ideas for some rule changes. One being once you hit the 20-yard line, then the 1 yard goes away to give the defense a little bit of a more advantage, and I didn't like that. And he also said
the defense has an extra defender in the end zone. It's called the goalpost.
I know, yeah. I know.
But there's been complaints about that too.
Cody Fajardo certainly doesn't like the goalpost.
So ever since Taylor Swift's Eras tour, I feel like we're in the era among football fans. So
yeah. And then the other thing that Stiegel said that I was like, is he thought it would be a good idea to give teams a certain amount of extra fourth downs to be used whenever you want, like timeouts, for example. And that's nuts.
Okay, yeah, here's an idea. Like, if you have some cap space, you can pay $100 for extra downs throughout. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry that was a little out there for Milt, but you know what?
Let's just introduce,
Speaking of
instead
Milt-
of Madden cards to the game, like Flutie cards.
Yeah,
where,
yeah.
you know,
There you go. Yeah, real life upgrades on the sideline. Yeah. Speaking of Milt, though, we're getting him back on the panel this week, and we're very excited about that. I know it's not a good reason why he's been gone, but I'm pretty sure. Hopefully, him coming back is going to help a little bit in his grief process, and I know it's going to be great for all the fans to see him, and
especially since the panel's going to be going to Winnipeg. And, I don't know if I said this on the show. Everybody's quick to dismiss TSN and what they've done for the CFL, but I feel like this year they've hit several stadiums. The pregame shows that they do, I think there's 2 a week. And the interviews that they've been having with players, the ones that Kate Burness and Matt Shinetti does with players, those guys are rock stars. And these are all on YouTube. And they're doing some pretty good work. But if you're going to, throw shade at some of the stuff that they do, give them flowers too. Because I thought a lot of the work being done this year has been great. Like the Stampede Bowl in Calgary and Kate taking Slow Rouge for a walk down the field.
Yeah.
Like, this is some good stuff.
Speaking of that Stampede Bowl, I don't know if you saw on Twitter, but there's a lot of stuff going around that there's 2 E's basically on that trophy. I thought that was kind of interesting. Maybe next year they need to have against Edmonton. But yeah, again, we're just happy that Milt's back. And like you said, TSN has stepped up their game, and hopefully they continue to do that, because I know they're trying to be a little bit more flashy and up to date. The new scorebug's good. I like the first down being, team specific, kind of like lines like that. I like that. Different colors. It's great. But keep it up.
I like this too, and I know you do, Sheldon. The kick to win contest is sort of back. Now, Wendy's did this kick for $1 million several years ago. The guy drains a 50-yarder at the Grey Cup to win
after missing all the other ones.
Missing every. So this one, it's $500,000, and the final is going to happen at the Western Final, wherever that could be. At this point, I could see it being anywhere except Edmonton. Sorry, Edmonton. But, man, if it's on the prairies, if it's in Calgary, Winnipeg, Regina, what are you kicking in the Western Final? If you're a kicker, you're cheering, BC plays, BC plays.
We're in Winnipeggers. If we're in Winnipeg or Saskatchewan, you might need a steel toe to kick it.
Oh man, yeah. Amateur kicker kicking outside at the Western Final. I love that. But Old Dutch sponsoring that contest, and hopefully somebody wins $500,000. I'd love to see it.
I hope so. And just kudos to the CFL. They're getting sponsorship dollars. They're getting promotions. They're getting I don't care if you like Bud Light or not. They got an official beer. I don't care if you like Old Dutch. That's they're getting sponsors, which is putting money into the league, which is great to see. I love it.
The Edmonton Elks on bye this week, but some injury updates from the Elks camp. Jake Seresna, the defensive lineman, got carted off the field in their game against the Lions. Imaging came back clean. It appears to be a bone bruise. He could actually be back in a couple weeks. So good that it's not as bad as it looked. Not a long-term injury. Also, safety Royce Metier's ankle is not long-term. Similar timeline. So decent news for Elks fans and their defense heading into the bye.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I'm kind of dealing with a bruised bone in my knee right now from taking a fall at work. So I couldn't imagine practicing it, but I'm not a top physical athlete either. But it's great to hear that Seresna's gonna not be out super long term. Love to hear that.
You're gonna need 2 grippy shoes like the curlers wear. Well, they wear 1 grippy shoe, right? So
yeah, I should probably have 2.
Yeah.
Or just, watch out for water on the floor. That's probably an easy thing to do too.
I probably would have torn a groin.
You saw the video. I don't know how I didn't tear something.
Be
certainly
thankful
tore
about
my pride.
Can we put it on the pod?
No. If people want to find it and search on YouTube, there is a video.
Oh, it's on YouTube.
No, not a YouTube, TikTok. There's a video of me
Okay.
falling outside at work with the audio of Mick Foley being thrown off the top of the Hell in a Cell by the Undertaker. So if anyone finds it on TikTok, have a good laugh at my expense.
Okay. Week 7 starts in Montreal, where the Alouettes are 10-point favorites over the Argos, Sheldon. The over-under at 50.5. Davis Alexander back at starting quarterback for the Alouettes, looking to improve to 8-0 in his young career. This would be the best win-loss record to start a CFL career since Danny Mac.
Yeah. He's a great, great quarterback. Hopefully he doesn't have a lot of rust, but he's coming back at the perfect time because Montreal has been struggling without him. McLeod Bethel-Thompson hasn't really been that, solid backup quarterback that I think we all kind of thought he would be if something did happen to Alexander. I know that's not the only injury. I know they've been dealing with not having Tyson Philpott as well, but he couldn't come back at a better time. And for Toronto, like what's the deal with Chad Kelly? Like this is kind of getting a little bit weird.
They're
like
it's
like
quiet on
super
what's happening.
quiet. Like this is. Like, he broke his leg and then he was rehabbing that. And then they said it was an ingrown toenail. And I don't, toenails grow. Like this doesn't take that long for an ingrown toenail. So I don't know what's going on. It'd be interesting if there's a little bit more publicized about it, I guess. But, just sucks to be Argo fans who are still just having to deal with the backup quarterback, which again, he won the Grey Cup last year, but had a little bit of help on the other side of the field, unfortunately.
Well, and the former most outstanding offensive lineman, Ryan Hunter, gets hit by a car on the way to practice. So he's out, obviously. Yeah. That's brutal.
I guess they don't make and I'm completely joking about this, but I guess they don't make O-linemen like they do in Saskatchewan because Dan Clark, got ejected from a vehicle and he was back in like 2 weeks or something like crazy like that. But again, I hope that Ryan Hunter can get better, and that's just you never expect something like that to take a guy out. You expect it to be an on-field injury or something like that. So he's the most outstanding lineman last year, so he's one of the best linemen in the league, and you don't want to see your star players not playing.
The Argos are getting a star back, and that's linebacker Winton McManus, who down the stretch last year leading up to the Grey Cup was playing out of his mind. So to have him back on that defense is big for the Argos. They've released running back Kevin Brown, and running back Deontay McMahon is back and ready to start for the Argos. Here's the thing, like that Argo running game was their bread and butter since basically Dinwiddie got to town. It has not been rolling this year. And McMahon, I feel like he can be a bit of a balanced threat. He can be a good receiver. He can run the ball too. But to get that going against the Alouettes is a tall task for the Argos.
It is, and I just I understand releasing Brown because McMahon is back, but at the same time I don't. Maybe he didn't want to take a practice roster spot. I don't know, but when you just release sign, somebody gets injured, it's kind of messing with consistency, I think. And so I'm not sure there wasn't another player that maybe they could have, or why they couldn't just, say that Kevin Brown got hurt and kept him on the roster, but just one-game him or something. It's kind of interesting because it's not like Toronto's just winning every game and they don't need these players. Like Kevin Brown is, I think, a really good running back, and it's interesting, very interesting.
the Argos are welcoming back defensive lineman Derek Parrish back to the fold as well. As we shift over to the Montreal Alouettes, where not only is Davis Alexander back, Austin Mack is as well. He had also been dealing with a hamstring injury. Currently, Tyson Philpott is listed as questionable. We'll see what happens when the game rolls around. But the Owls have had some injuries, including starting left tackle Nick Callender. He's been dealing with a foot injury, but he's back starting for the Alouettes at home. Now, these two teams have been the kings of the East over the past couple of years. But right now, the only thing that the Argos have going for them is that the RedBlacks have also been losing. So that kind of keeps them in the fold in the East. The Alouettes have a real opportunity here. Obviously, they want to keep winning. They want to be in the hunt for hosting that East final or East semifinal, because the Ticats are right back in the fold as well. Winning this one against their biggest rival over the past couple of years, this is an important one. It's going to be a physical one Thursday night.
Oh, absolutely. When Montreal they got off to that big lead in 3-0 in the East Division, and then ran into some diversity when Alexander got out there. But when you see Hamilton able to come back in there and take the top spot, and you have Toronto kind of just nipping at your heels, you have to there's a few games where it's kind of almost must win just to get some momentum back, and this might be one of them, because if you're Toronto, you have to win, because right now, obviously, if the season ended, there'd be a crossover. BC would be in the East for the playoffs, and Toronto and Ottawa, they both need to start winning, but Montreal can't afford to lose, because Hamilton, they could start running away with it, because Hamilton's playing great ball the past 2 weeks. So, I think this is a huge game for both teams.
Doesn't it kind of feel like if the Argos lose, we'll see how far this thing can spiral? You know what I mean?
If the Argos lose, regardless of Chad Kelly, you got to go to a different quarterback. You got to go to the other guy there. I don't know. You can't keep losing. You can't keep just waiting for Chad Kelly to come back and hope you're going to go on the magical run that the BC Lions did in 2011 or whatever year that was, when they started out 0-6 or 0-5 and won the Grey Cup. So it's go time, and as long as Chad Kelly, he still needs to be able to practice before he can come back. He's probably going to need to have a couple weeks of practice before you can throw him back in there. And so, they could still be a few weeks out on this, and they got to get it turned around, man.
Yeah, it was a few weeks ago when Dinwiddie said expect Chad Kelly back for week 7. Here we are, still not good to go. The Argos do have the worst rush defense currently in the CFL, so maybe there's an opportunity there. You saw what happened in week 1. These teams played to open up the season on Friday Night Football, and the Alouettes handled them 28-10, and they ran it right down their throat with Sean Thomas Erlington. So, the Argos are going to be happy to have Wynton McManus back there trying to make the stops. But Sean Thomas Erlington in that game, 17 carries, 86 yards. Mack had 51 yards receiving there. Arbuckle's not playing bad. He's kind of doing what you hope as the backup. DeMonte Coxey had 99 yards receiving in that week 1. Lorenzo Burns is out for the Alouettes on this one, and so is Dylan Wynn on the defensive line. Maybe they'll try to get some deep shots to DeMonte Coxey. They're still making plays. Kevin Mattel's having a good season. If the Argos were doing better, we'd probably be talking about him a little bit more. Yeah. But it is. I think we're getting to must-win territory for the Double Blue, and that 10-point spread. That's
yeah. I don't think it's going to be a 10-point win here. But the other thing for Montreal, they could wrap up the season series with this win. Like you said, they've already had that first win, and in that tight Eastern Conference where there could be a crossover, or having that tiebreaker against Toronto is huge, especially this early. We saw BC got it against Edmonton. Saskatchewan might be able to get it against BC this week. Like, it's pretty, just the way this schedule has been pretty crazy with how sometimes, like, some of these games are getting done early with the division rivals, and already having playoff implications in week 7 is pretty crazy.
You're good to bring up the crossover because the playoffs were today. The Western Final would be in Calgary with the Riders hosting the West semifinal against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. The East semifinal would be in Montreal with the BC Lions visiting, and the Hamilton Tiger Cats would be hosting the East final, waiting the winner of that game. So Toronto and Ottawa, they not only need to battle with themselves, they need to battle with the BC Lions, who have 3 wins, and both of those teams only have 1 apiece. So there's another thing to watch. Very early in the season, 13, 12 games to go, 14 games to go for the Blue Bombers, but a long way to go here. And speaking of those Blue Bombers, 3.5-point favorites on Friday Night Football against the Calgary Stampeders. The over-under is at 49.5, and this is one of the quirks of the schedule here because July 3rd, the Stamps beat the Bombers 37-16 in the Stampede Bowl. Well, the Bombers get to go enjoy a week off. What did the Stamps do? They spend 2 nights in Regina because of smoke. They still get the win 24-10. Good for them for facing that situation. But the Bombers come back from their nice little bye, and now they're in the cozy confines of Princess Auto Stadium, and the Stamps are on the road again to play the Bombers. Good for the Stamps. 2-0 on the road, 2-0 inside the division. But this is a tough assignment, I think, for the Stampeders. Yeah. I think there's a lot buying in now, and a lot. You have them at the top of your power rankings. Spoiler alert, we're going to get that as it goes on. But you have to think that Zach Collaros and company is going to want to have a better showing than they did at McMahon Stadium a few weeks ago.
For sure they are. And I think one of the main things here that, leads in to Winnipeg's favor, other than being able to play in front of another sold out crowd. I think that's their 8th in a row or something like that at Princess Auto Stadium. But even on the bye week, and I'm sure when you go into the bye week on a loss, the important players, the team leaders, the coaches, they're not taking a week off. They're doing film, they're doing all the things, and the benefit for them is they're doing the exact same film they did the week before. They're still worried about that same opponent, whereas Calgary had to deal with Winnipeg, and then they had to deal with Saskatchewan, so they had to get a whole new thing in there, and then they had that extra day of uncertainty, like you said. So this is the perfect time, I think, for Winnipeg to be able to come back and see if they're able to take a punch to the face and give one right back. Because again, just like this previous game, if Calgary can win here, they got the season series, and that's huge. Like, there's not many teams in the past 5 years that have had a season series over Winnipeg, and especially not this early in the season. So and Calgary actually plays kind of decent in Winnipeg, if my memory serves. I could be wrong about that. Somebody will tell me, but this is a different team. This is a way better team than a lot of us thought. We thought that they might have some issues on the defense, because we kind of thought that
I thought that the offense would be okay.
I thought the offense would be okay, but I thought they kind of scapegoated an actual good defensive coordinator, and Mike Momsen has come in and done an amazing job. I think
Bob
they have
Slowick, because Monson's in.
Sorry,
Sorry,
yes, Slowick. Thank you. He's got them running at an elite pace. Like, they're not giving up yards on the run outside of that crazy rain game. Like, they held AJ Ouellette to 6 carries for 13 yards, I think is what it was. So, if they're able to stop the Riders running, who was the best in the league at that time, and then now they're coming up against Brady Oliveira. So it's a similar game plan. Can they take that away from the Bombers? Because if they do, and they can get Zach rattled and throws a couple more pick sixes, then they could dog walk him in front of that Winnipeg crowd. But Zach's record at Princess Auto Stadium speaks for itself, and he's going to be pissed off, and he's had a whole week to stew on it, and I think he's going to have a good game.
Somehow, like VA, I'm a big fan of him. He's had success against the Bombers during the regular season too. So let's see what he can do on Friday night. Hopefully the Bomber players, Stampeder players for that matter, they save their appetites for after the game because of this red zone sandwich that is making its debut Friday night. Section 106. I feel like a 2-and-out road trip needs to maybe happen annually to a different stadium in the CFL. And then Winnipeg is quickly like, I want to go there. This red zone sandwich, let me paint the picture. It's $70, but it's 3 feet long. Brisket, crispy peppers, pickle fries, smoky barbecue sauce, served with mac and cheese. I think one person can take it down. I think one person can take it down.
I know I certainly could not. I could take it down with a couple other friends, maybe, like a foot of that and then some of the mac and cheese. But, I could actually see somebody if I'm being honest with you. But
okay, we need some Bomber fans to please give us an update if you see a red zone sandwich, and if you tackle it by yourself, kudos.
Yeah, thanks, and thanks to Cappy for tagging us in that. Keep doing it every game. Other people, actually, when I mentioned in the last pod that I was talking with those Stamp fans, and I was trying to talk to them about the giant baked potato at McMahon Stadium, and they didn't know about it. So maybe it's only in a secret area.
It's a secret of McMahon. So there was actually somebody. There's so many comments on that last video. Somebody spelled out they want to go to McMahon Stadium to try the food. So
we're doing a thing here. We're doing a thing.
The CFL food tour. I don't know.
I'm here for it.
I'll try to load up the Calgary Stampeders. I think I have it here. The concession map. Wow. What's new this year? Ice cream. Serving Foothills Creamery hard ice cream. Touchdown bowls. Wagyu sausage at the Huff's Burger Stop. A deep fried Mars bar that you can get at the Angry Chicken. A cookies and cream and maple bacon donut holes as well. I tell you what, McMahon Stadium. August 23rd, the Riders are in town. Maybe look for me there. Although you're going to Crete or some. Going on a Manitoba vacation.
On the 19th, but then I'm on Manitoba vacation, yeah.
With those pterodactyl-sized mosquitoes. Although August, the mosquitoes in my neck of the woods, they're usually cooled off by then, so you might have.
Yeah, the mosquitoes are kind of. It's the wasps you got to deal with in August.
Okay.
They're the worst. But we are in a cabin. We'll be fine.
Okay. You're not going to leave the cabin at all.
If it's hot and sweaty and I have an air conditioned cabin, no.
Usually cabins are not air conditioned.
Oh no! These are luxury cabins. They're not.
Only the best.
Shane McMahon cabins.
McMahon. Only the best.
Shane McMahon.
Only the best for Sheldon Jones. Only the best.
No, I just don't like being in tents and stuff. So this is the concession I make to go camping until I can afford a trailer or something.
I don't know how much money you think we make from monetization on YouTube.
No,
but not a trailer.
No, I was talking maybe someday in my shoot job that I could do that. But no, it's ridiculous. There's mortgages for trailers now. I'm not getting a second mortgage. That's ridiculous. Some people pay off their trailer in 25 years. Like, what are you doing?
Wow.
I've seen it. Yeah.
Okay. So the Calgary Stampeders, I mean, Dave Dickinson knows what the assignment is going to Princess Auto Stadium. He knows what the Stamps are in for.
The dang Canadian Mafia. Yeah, he knows.
Yeah, the
He
glory days when we used to mic up the coaches. That was quite the experiment. But the Stamps, as of Tuesday, Clark Barnes still not taking part in practice. Malik Henry as well. Remember, he's sort of on the horizon of possibly getting back into that receiving core for the Stamps. Defensive back Ben LaBrosse was limited as well. The Stamps have brought in Canadian linebacker Justin Herdman-Reed as well. He's had a few stops in his CFL career now. And then some rookies dealing with injuries. And that's the thing with the Stamps. Some rookies are really contributing right off the bat, including one on the offensive line and Damian Alford. Maybe the Bombers are going to have to start dealing with him now if Alford gets another start. 6'7". He's tough on those DBs. Those Bomber DBs, it was like I praised them on a podcast, and then they had a rough game against the Stamps. So maybe I'll cool it on my love for Terrell Bonds and company in Winnipeg. But the Stamps lost Tyler Richardson, the DB, and rookie linebacker Nicky Farinaccio to injuries in the win over the Riders. So there might be some shuffling on the defense, but the Stamps are getting contributions from some surprising places, and it's been a big part of their early season success.
Yep. You pretty much said it perfectly. Like when you got a receiver number one pick who's 6'7" and able to grab those throws, like, yeah, why wouldn't you be playing him? And he certainly torched the Riders. So I could certainly see a position just when Vernon Adams is scrambling and rolling around. He is a lot like Trey Ford, where he's quick, he can get out of the pocket, and then. But he's also good enough to be able to see downfield and find the receivers who, do the hot routes or the go routes or whatever you want to call it to get open and find some space. But Winnipeg's defense is pretty good, so they're going to want to have a better showing against the Stamps this game, obviously, too.
So I'm looking at the McMahon Stadium map. I know the Stamps.
Mac Mahon.
Okay, Mac Mahon. I know the Stamps are not home this week. I know they were in Winnipeg, but there is a spot called the Tater Tavern, and that is where you get the Spudinator. Okay?
Tater Tavern. Okay.
The Tater Tavern is right behind Section F. So that is where you get the Spudinator and the potato parfaits. Yeah. McMahon Stadium. Buy your tickets. Yes, like a cup. They had like a pulled pork layered potato thing that you eat with a spoon.
There's a food truck in Regina that has like a barbecue parfait, and it's like,
oh really?
Baked beans and coleslaw and like
yeah.
Brisket, and that just made me think of that.
Saturday. On the West Coast, it's the BC Lions in the Watermelon Smash. 2.5 point favorites over the visiting Saskatchewan Roughriders. The over-under is at 52.5. Now that vaunted Roughrider defense against the run is having that average wrecked every single week, it seems, as of late. 264 rushing yards against in the past 2. I feel like James Butler deserves a little bit less carries, considering he had 30 against Edmonton last week, but that has to be a focus for the Riders to get that part of their defense back on track.
Well, that's the thing, though. That has to be a focus, but they also have to focus on the amount of passing yards they're giving up. They're dead last in the league in passing yards given up right now. Butler actually had success in the last game that these two teams faced off. So I don't know what's happening with the Riders defense. Like at first, it seemed like they were when they have the offense kicking and firing on all cylinders, then I guess it's okay to give up a lot of yards and hope you're going to just give up field goals. But when you give up field goals every drive and the offense decides to go 2 and out a lot, we appreciate the plug, but it's not going to get any wins happening. So the Riders defense needs to go back to the drawing boards. I think Coach Mace needs to have a little bit more of a balanced attack when it comes to blitzing or to man coverage and zone coverage. But VA was able to find those spots that were open, and he was able to fake out defensive backs so that he's able to have giant completions and explosion plays. And Nathan Rourke, while he's not as mobile as Vernon Adams, he's still mobile, and he's had some success against the Riders. And I just think that, going to BC after a loss, it's going to be tough, especially with Rourke playing as good as he has been the past couple of days. Even when he's been limited in practice, both these last weeks, he's still showing up on the game day and slinging the rock.
Now, the Rider defense, as of Wednesday, was having some reinforcements back, because on Tuesday, Roland Milligan, Marcus Sales, and Devon Campbell weren't practicing, but those guys were back practicing, working with the starters. Devon Campbell missing last week, and I guess that worked out for the rookie, Damian Alford, and the Calgary Stampeders. Another Alford, not related, Mario Alford, not going to be playing. It looked like he hurt his ankle against the Stampeders. Has had a nice start to the season for the Riders. So Dre McCray is going to be starting in his place, returning kicks for the Riders. And we're still sort of waiting on the status of Sam Emilus. We're going to see what's going to be happening there. Him and Sean Bain have been poking around practice, not quite working with the starters. However, Emilus was seeing a little bit of first-team reps on Wednesday, so maybe he gets back on the roster for this game in Vancouver.
Yeah, maybe. And I also saw that Tommy Neild was getting some action on with the first team. Him and Picton were splitting that up, so it'll be interesting to see if he's able to get into the lineup for the first time this season. The Riders have a pretty big dilemma coming up when it comes to receivers, because the past couple of games we've seen the emergence of Joe Robustelli. Dale Duncan Busby has had some success. Keyshawn Johnson and Myers, they've both had success too. So when Emilus is back and with Neild and with Sean Bain Jr., like, they got some decisions to make, because I'm not sure you can just stash Robustelli on the practice roster anymore after, he has what I think unofficially was a 200-yard game. So, it's a kind of an embarrassment of riches, but they need to figure that situation out. But more important, they need to get back into their winning ways, and hopefully they can, for their sake, get that season series with BC, because it's going to be a dogfight in this Western Conference or Western Division. We've seen close games, we've seen blowouts, but they're all so, other than Edmonton, unfortunately, packed in together close and tight here. So these wins are important early on for both teams.
Over the last two games, Nathan Rourke has 697 passing yards. If they didn't lay off the gas against Edmonton, that could be pushing 800. Stanley Berryhill, touchdowns in consecutive games. The Lions had some changes last week. There was a suspension on the D-line because of what happened against Montreal. Then they had CFL newcomer Tomasi Lalile in there, and he had a great game up the middle, starting against Edmonton. So I don't know if the Lions need to make much change on defense. Why rush to get him back in? The Lions are actually giving up, on average, the least yards a week. Against the run, They were nearing like 125 yards a game, but the pass, they're the only team sub 200. And I have to assume the struggles last week with Trey Ford not being able to hit his receivers definitely contribute to that. But the Lions are making difficult on teams to move the ball. Trevor Harris and company, they're going to have their hands full with this Leo's team.
Well, they are, and they also need to figure it out because last week they had such problems against Calgary, and they just couldn't, depending on what the game plan was, they couldn't get on board with it because, they abandoned the run super early, and they decided that they weren't going to try to push the field down or push the ball down the field until the second half when they did make some adjustments. So hopefully they're ready to go, and that first kind of drive that they script and they work on in practice is able to get back to what it was the first few games of the season when they were scoring on the first drive of every game. Like the offense was able to come out firing kind of at will until this Calgary game. So, and like I said before, if your offense isn't firing, you can't be this bend but don't break defense. You have to be a shutdown defense, and you have to work the field position so that you can try to just get in line for some field goals. But the Riders are having some issues at field goal kicking right now because Brett Lowther again missed 2, and they gambled a few times where they could have hit field goals last week. So I'm not sure if that was just urgency from Coach Mace or if that was we don't trust our kicker right now. And I thought that maybe they would bring in a kicker for some competition this week. They haven't. So it looks like it's just, letting Brett get out of his head on this, but he's got to get out of his head on this, and soon.
2 receivers in the CFL have 52 targets. One is Geno Lewis. Do you know the other one, Sheldon?
I would assume Keyshawn Johnson.
It's a BC Lion.
BC. McInnes.
Hatcher.
Hatcher. Okay.
Hatcher and Geno Lewis and Kenny Lawler all have 30 receptions. Keon Hatcher has 516 yards on the season, 2 touchdowns. I feel like this is kind of quiet right now. I don't think it's going to be quiet very longer, but Justin McInnes has 27 catches himself. Keyshawn Johnson, 24 catches on 34 targets, if you're curious there. But Keon Hatcher and that Lions offense, I don't know what it is, man. They just seem to be that much better when Stanley Berryhill's in there. Now, he did miss a couple games. He's got 18 catches himself on 28 targets, but 4 touchdowns in 4 games. So Kenny Lawler's not the only one scoring touchdowns right now. Nick Dembski also has 4 touchdowns in 4 games. So some premier receivers getting into the end zone early in this season. And that Rider defense, they seem to be okay with playing some zone and letting offenses walk up and down the field. And I think if Rourke has the time, he says he's feeling more confident and better than he did last week going into the game against Edmonton. So what does that mean?
I don't know. Like Nathan Rourke he's surgical when he's playing his best, and if he has time to be able to not only move the pocket but roll out and find people, then he's going to pick you apart all day. And so the key is going to be, are the Riders able to get pressure on him? And this last week against Vernon Adams, they really weren't able to get pressure. There was a few times where they did kind of push him outside, but one of those plays, Antoine Brooks Jr. bid on it, and he threw an 80-yard touchdown to Alfred. So I think the Riders only had 1 sack, and it was when Vernon Adams fell down and Ray touched him. So so the Riders, if they want to have any success, they have to be more aggressive on defense. Send Thurman on blitzes. I think possibly Caleb Saunders might be ready to come back, and he's been missed in the middle, and I think that's where a lot of the ability to run on the Riders the past couple of games has happened. So hopefully he's able to get back in there. But BC's offense is, remarkable. And like I said, I think I said last week that I think that they have the best receivers in the league. So when you're going up against the team that gives up the most passing yards and you have the best receivers in the league, it's going to be a long night for Rider fans, I think, and a lot of cursing at the TV at this Mace defense. And I'm hopeful that he can figure it out. But a lot of times coaches, for better or worse, are pretty stubborn in what they want to call and how what their focus or their game plan is. So just don't wait until the second half to make adjustments. VA had 120 yards passing last game in the second half, but 80 of it was on one play. So the Riders, held him to 50 yards in the second half. And I know they were leading and they were able to take their foot off the gas a little bit, but you need to come out of the gate and you need to have your defense sound and your offense clicking, or else this is going to be a really long game for the Riders.
BC was playing a lot of man against Edmonton, so we'll see what they're going to do against Sask, and they might just say, hey, beat our guys. I love when defenses play man. Let's go.
Oh, yeah. Well, and Trevor Harris, he's used to being able to get that ball out on time, but against Calgary, he didn't even have a chance to get the ball out quick, and so they went to these crappy little hitch routes, and that's how they tried to do it. So we're gonna have to see how the Riders O-line is able to respond with not having Tate in there, and it didn't really look that great last week. So I know they signed a 5th round pick from BC this draft. I can't remember his name, but I'm not sure if he's going to get in there or not. But they need to, Edwin Harrison's been praised as being one of the best coaches in the CFL just because of how many linemen in the past year or two that the Riders have been missing due to injury, and they've been able to protect the quarterback a little bit, and especially this season, maybe not so much last season, but so hopefully he's able to work some magic there, because if Trevor Harris gets hit a couple times early, it's gonna, again, I keep saying this, it'll be a long day for the Riders.
Before we talk about the last game of the week, let's talk about your CFL power rankings, because there are already comments rolling in on X about your power rankings. So I'm going to put them on the screen right now.
So Calgary's the number one team. They've proved it the past couple of weeks, and so has Hamilton. It was those are kind of the 1A, 1B. I just put Calgary ahead just because they were able to beat the Riders and the Bombers. Then Winnipeg stays at 3 on bye. Riders fall down to 4. Montreal stays at 5 again on bye. And BC, I got a lot of flack last week because I had BC below Edmonton, and I guess that turned out to be correct. Just like the week before when I had Hamilton below Toronto, it turned out to be correct. So I have remedied that. And again, this isn't the standings. This is power rankings. So it's how the team is acting in that week. Ottawa moves up. I don't know why they just did, because Edmonton fell down, I guess. And then Toronto is still in the 9th position, but I'm sure a lot of people want me to have Edmonton down there, but Edmonton has done better in the last few weeks than Toronto has. So that's why they stayed there.
Okay, so we have a message here from Dave, who, judging by his cover photo and profile picture on X, is a Ticats fan. He says, slow down on the Cats, Sheldon. How about they beat a West Division team before we lift them up on our shoulders?
I'm not lifting anyone up on my shoulders. I got bad shoulders. But slow down. Again, I'm not slowing down. I'm not trying to help anybody out with their superstitions or anything like that. This is just what I see. The Hamilton Tiger Cats have.
Maybe he doesn't want the Sheldon Jones jinx.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't want the Sheldon Jones jinx, but it still happens to me, so it can happen to everyone else. If you're a team and you win 2 games in a row, and a lot of people are talking about how you're gonna miss the playoffs, and then 2 weeks later you're in first place in the division, yeah, you're gonna be high in my power rankings, and so is Calgary. There was 2 undefeated teams left in the CFL. the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and Calgary knocked them both off. So they deserve number 1. Hamilton deserves number 2, and Toronto deserves number 9.
Those Hamilton Tiger Cats are 1.5 point underdogs heading to Ottawa. The team that they just beat by a field goal at Tim Hortons Field. So we don't have to wait long to see how the RedBlacks are going to react here. The RedBlacks 1-5, 0-2 at home. The Ticats 3-2, 1-1 on the road. Gino Lewis is getting his targets in Ottawa. 24 of them in the last 2 games. Last week, it was a duel between Lawler and Lewis. We're going to be seeing it again Sunday in Ottawa. Now, for the RedBlacks, you'd think they'd be a team that can run the ball, and they did have success doing it on the ground against the Calgary Stampeders in the monsoon game. But when they have Stanback and Adeboboye, and I feel like ever since they had that weird ratio thing, with Stanback only being able to play 49% of the snaps, whatever the rule is, they haven't been able to, I think, figure out what they're going to do. And neither running back has really been able to get into a groove for that offense. And they got 2 talented guys there, but neither of them really been able to be consistent for that offense.
Yeah, I don't really understand using the designated American or designated national or whatever it is as your starting running back, just because you're limiting the amount of time that you can have your starting running back in there. And yeah, Stanback, we've been saying, for years that he just needs to be given a chance, and whenever he is given a chance, he shows it, and he's had some flashes of that this year too. But Ottawa is another team that needs to figure it out, and they need to figure it out like now, because this is before the bye week. I think if they lose, I think you're making a change at head coach, and so if these players love Bob Dice, you better play for him, boys, because this is, I think, the last chance you're going to have.
I do wonder how different things would have looked if Drew Brown was able to play in every game this season, but that's football. Drew Brown was able to get back into it against Edmonton, and they lost. Trey Ford had the game of his life. So what does that say about the RedBlacks defense? What does it say about the Lions defense? So can we even really base anything off of that Trey Ford performance against those 2 teams?
Well, I don't know if we can, but also they did play Hamilton pretty tight last week.
They did.
And so, that's showing improvement. And so having Brown back in there was good for that. But And it is always really hard to beat a team back-to-back, especially when the second game, if you lost the first one, but the second game is at home. I think that makes it even better, or even, more of a chance for the RedBlacks in this one, if they're going to have that slight upset. But like I said, they have to win this game. This is a must-win game for Ottawa, and I'm not being coy about that. Like, it's make or break, and at least for their sake, they have a viable head coach option if they do decide to make a change and send a message to that team that, this isn't what we expected from this bunch of players, and we need to try to right this ship, and hopefully, if that is the case and that does happen, that Rick Campbell is able to come in and do that. But This is the day. This is the game that these guys need to have the game of their life if they want to save their coach, I think.
If the Ticats win, that's season series for the black and gold, which would be really big for them here.
So each game this week has a possible season series. That's crazy in week 7.
Now, if the RedBlacks win, that season series gets decided in week 21, the last Friday night football of the season. So the RedBlacks, hey, if they win this, it's a long season. They're totally in it. And they could be in that East Division hunt if they hand the Ticats a loss here. But I think everybody's seeing the highlight reel plays from Bo Mitchell and Kenny Lawler. So the question is, what do you do to disrupt that flow and that hot streak? Because it seems like even if you're double covering the King, it doesn't matter. Like, he'll still make the catch. Yeah. They don't even bother looking elsewhere. If he's double covered, they still find a way to get him the ball and get him a score.
Yeah, well, that's another thing Luke Wilson actually talked about on the Paper Plates podcast is he said that, and he's a little bit biased because he knows Kenny Lawler, like they played together on the Seattle Seahawks, but he said that he could start on any NFL team. He said that's how good Kenny Lawler is. And, I have to kind of agree with that because the only knock on Kenny Lawler is his health. He hasn't been able to play a full season, and, he had a down season in Edmonton, but we're seven weeks into the season, and he's already had his season high for catches or for touchdown catches at 7. And if he's able to stay healthy, I said this in response to somebody on Twitter where they said that Nathan Rourke was going to be the MOP, and I was like, actually, if Kenny Lawler stays healthy, he is the MOP. I don't think there's really any question there. But what happens when you continually double cover Kenny Lawler, or you throw a double cover and a zone or something? Well, then you have Tim White, who's going to be one-on-one, or you have, Bridges, who's going to be one-on-one. Like they have options, and Bo Levi is able to get the ball to those guys too. So it's a huge task for Ottawa to be able to stop this offense right now.
So did Kenny Lawler have a down season in Edmonton? He had 894 yards, 5 touchdowns in 12 games, and that was the 2022 version of the Edmonton Elks. Trey Ford got drafted that year. That is the year that BC beat Edmonton 59-15 in week 1, and then BC beat them 46-14 in week 8. Like, that was... You think the Elks are bad now? No, man.
Well, okay, that's fair. Like, I guess...
because Lawler had 901, so 7 more yards in the same amount of games the next year with Winnipeg. But
that's true.
But
the year before he was over 1,000, and so he had almost, but he's still again only 13. He's played 16 is the most games he's played, and that was his first year in the season, or first year in the league. So if he's able to get 17 or 18 games, like, he could easily get 1,800 yards and maybe 20 touchdowns. Like, that's elite. That's that's 100%. Best player in the league, and he's just the type of guy. Like I said, try to cover him. But even if Bo feels he's covered and he chucks it to one of his other guys, that other guy's gonna have a way better chance to catch it if you're gonna triple cover Kenny.
Well, yeah, the Ticats have Tim White, which, I don't know, the last couple of years, like, Tim White, at the end of the year, like, you look at the numbers and you're just like, holy crap, this guy just racks up yards. Like, last year, it's a down year, and he had 1,164 yards. However, 127 targets, 74 catches there, and the year before, 1,269 yards and 1,265 yards the year before that. So this guy just racks up yards. And this year, so far, he hasn't really gotten there. He hasn't had to, but there's going to be, a 150-yard game for him. Shamar Bridges is not as involved. Keandre Smith can make crazy catches for the Ticats. So they're going to try to force the Cats into being one-dimensional. They couldn't really get the running game going last week against Ottawa with Johnny Augustine. If Greg Bell remains hurt, well, then maybe the RedBlacks can turn this into a bit of a physical dogfight. I think that's what they want. I think Drew Brown can move the ball and score points for the RedBlacks, but I think they'd rather it just be an ugly game. Slow it down a little bit. I don't know if they want a shootout with the Tiger Cats at this point.
Oh no, I don't think so either. I think they want to be able to control the offense while scoring, themselves. But it's a tough matchup, just because one team is rolling super high, one team is down on the down. So and this could be a potential trap game for Hamilton too. It's possible. It's Ottawa's going to be fired up. They don't want to lose back to back to Hamilton. So we'll have to see what happens. But again, if Hamilton is able to win and Ottawa loses, you got to make a change in the nation's capital. You got to figure out a way to right this ship, and it's time to say goodbye to Bob Dice, unfortunately.
All right, we're going to go through our fantasy lineups for Week 7 of the CFL season. Right now, the Canadian Football League... CFL Podcast Fantasy League, there we go. I'm against Argos Fancast, so I believe that's going to be Will, and you're against the Rouge, White, and Blue podcast. So that must be Joe Pritchard or Oz Davis. I can say that I'm probably going to lose. Like, if we look at the standings right now, I'm 1-5. I am the... there are 3 other teams at 1-5, so I don't have sole possession of last place. You're kind of middle of the pack, 3-3 in our matchups. So my quarterback is Nathan Rourke. He's also my captain. Brady Oliveira is my running back 1. Sean Thomas Erlington is my running back 2. I have Stanley Berryhill III. Justin Hardy of the Ottawa RedBlacks is my second receiver. Carrick Wheatfall of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in my flex. And I have the BC Lions defense. I wanted Montreal, but they were upwards of 10K. The Lions are 6K, so I just threw them in there. What's yours looking like?
This is mine right now. I might make some changes just because I don't know if I'm set on it, but I also have Nathan Rourke as my captain. And my running backs, I have Willie Stanback and Augustine. That's where I don't know if that's going to stay the same. Receivers, I have Keon Hatcher and Kenny Lawler. And then my flex is Mitch Picton currently. Just for all those, check down ones he seems to be getting. And I'm rolling with the Bombers defense at
Week 7 of the 2025 CFL season starts in Montreal, where the Alouettes are 10-point favorites over the Toronto Argonauts. Friday night, the Bombers 3.5-point favorites over Calgary. In Vancouver, the BC Lions 2.5-point favorites over the Riders. And in Ottawa, the Ticats, the visiting Ticats, 1.5-point favorites over the RedBlacks. Once again, for me, sweep it with the home teams. Ottawa, Lions, Bombers, and Alouettes. Who do you got, Sheldon?
I have the Alouettes, the Bombers, the Lions, but I have the Ticats winning as well.
Let us know in the comments who you think are going to be the winners this week in Week 7 of the CFL season. You can rate, review, and subscribe to 2 and Out on your favorite podcatcher, and of course, drop by the YouTube channel. You can enter to win tickets to a CFL game on our Week 6 recap video. It's the video with like 160 comments or something crazy like that. So stop by there. Let us know what game you want to go to. Sign up for our Patreon. Get in on our fantasy league before Week 7 to win a jersey at the end of the season. For Sheldon Jones, I'm Travis Currah. Enjoy Week 7 of the 2025 CFL season.
The 2 and Out CFL podcast is written, produced, and hosted by Travis Currah and co-hosted by Sheldon Jones. Subscribe to Two and Out on all major podcast platforms and YouTube to keep up to date with future shows.